and welcome. From Lisbon, I will be talking in the next half an hour with Maria Manuel Leitão Marques, European Deputy MEP. Maria Manuel Leitão Marques will speak about all the initiatives she has developed in the area of consumer protection and protection. Maria Manuel Leitão Marques is the Vice President of the Committee on the Internal Market and Consumer Protection, was Minister of the Presidency and Administrative Modernization, and is a full Professor of Economics in the Coimbra University. Maria Manuel Leitão Marques, thank you for joining us. This event intends to discuss a new roadmap for sustainability for the relationship of consumers with consumer goods, for the way we will behave in the area in a post-pandemic context. How has consumption changed in terms of sustainability? How will consumers be more attentive to certain aspects? What could be the tendencies of the economic agents in their behavior? Well, all questions, important questions. This event is about a new social contract for the post-COVID era. How can we work together? In this conversation, we will talk about the new consumer agenda in the digital age. The new consumer agenda, in addition to responding to consumer needs during and after the COVID-19 pandemic, defines a long-term vision for 2025 and introduces concrete actions in 5 key areas: ecological transition, digital transformation, effective enforcement of legislation and effective remedies, consumer vulnerability, consumer protection in the global context. Let's talk about all of this. And Maria Manuel Leitão Marques, welcome to this conversation. Why they are so important, these 5 keys to act?
So it's difficult to choose what's the more important issue in consumers' agenda. But if I can choose one of the issues, I will start by the digital transition. Let me break. There are 2 big transitions we are discussing in the Parliament in a very transversal way, in different commissions, from the perspective of trade, fundamental rights, internal market, of course, that is climate transition and digital transition. In what concerns of consumer protection, that is our discussion today, and thank you very much. It's very good to be with you, Rosalia. It's my privilege. I will choose digital transition because I think digital transition, not only in this COVID period, but especially, but before, is changing completely the relation between consumers and the market. But I will come back to sustainable transition. That is, of course, a very, very important and more difficult to do because it's a cultural change we need to put forward in our relation with products and services. Let us start with digital transition. At the beginning of internet, and we remember the beginning more or less, we were convinced that market imbalance and information asymmetries between consumers and traders were going to be solved. So the market would become transparent, every consumer would be able to compare prices, have all the information and condition sitting at home at her or his desk. And furthermore, technology would help make products safer. And now we know that this is not true. The market platforms, the power of market platforms, market power of platforms, to be more precise, it's huge. The network effects make it bigger each second. And big data and artificial intelligence, more recent, mechanisms such as machine learning, deep learning, data analytics, and so on, are reinforcing this power, leaving consumers less protected in a situation sometimes very, very difficult, more difficult than before when they go to the physical
I want to ask you,
shops.
how can the artificial intelligence help us in all this process? How can help to between the consumer and the sustainability? How can help us to have success with this?
Yes. For the moment, we can say we're going naked to the market without stress. They know us better than we know ourselves.
It's true.
So if I try to buy a tennis, they recommend me a gym, and after a diet program and so on. Everybody have bad experience normally of this target advertisement. But also, it's a very, very good question because artificial intelligence and the data also can be used for good, or for increased consumer protection. And I'll give you two examples from my previous job as minister. It's not a job, but my previous function as minister. We developed prototypes using artificial intelligence and public data, the data of our public services, and we, in collaboration, in a partnership with our scientific community, we are experimenting, we have been experimenting since 2 years ago, how to use our data, our public data, to improve public policies. And one of them is exactly consumer protection. And I'll give you two examples, very interesting. One is for market surveillance. Market surveillance is very important because at the beginning you referred very well that is important legislation to be effective.
Yes.
We can have very good legislation in books, but we need good legislation in action, effective.
And the market needs regulation. Absolutely.
Yes, of course. The market needs regulation, and sometimes I received in the parliament big platforms because they want to talk with us. It's very useful for us to understand how it works, and I'm convinced they are convinced nowadays that this market needs regulation. I'm not sure if you agree on the regulation, on the content of
Yes.
regulation, but we are trying to do our best. And nowadays, the Commission are going to do that with Digital Service Act to protect the relation of consumers with platforms. The Digital Market Act to protect also the relation between the small providers of the platforms, because some platforms like Amazon compete with their providers, with their clients, people that sold their products using this platform, Amazon. There are other platforms that have a different system, are not competing. But when they are competing, this is a problem because sometimes they can keep the business of their providers when they succeed. So this is a problem of competition. The market power, and now Commission is open an investigation to Amazon exactly because this problem, and so this is Digital Market Act that is being prepared by the Commission. Two important pieces of legislation, and the other one is related to safety. Nowadays, a product is not only a product. I can show you my cell phone, my mobile phone, or my cook machine, or even my car. It's not only a product as it was
the Commission.
before.
The Commission is also concerned with the product safety to the consumers. That's it.
Yes, of course.
And why it's so important?
It's important because nowadays, and more, products are smart. They include technology, software. They depend on software updates. I can give you an example. Imagine you bought a machine, a cook machine or something similar, and it depends on update software, right? And my car also depends on update software.
Yes.
If there are a bug in the software, who is responsible? The Volkswagen, Mercedes, or so on that assemble
The factory
the
or the
car,
brand
or
the technology.
or the technology, or the people responsible by the update software. So there are new problems we need to solve with these problems that have technology inside that are at the same time products and services. It's not only a product itself, it's a service that gives me new receipts, new recipes, new functionalities depending on the new software I install. So this is a lot of problems. This one is about liability and responsibility by the product, by the safety of the product, but also there are other problems related to safety for the products we buy abroad, in China, from India,
Yes.
from other countries, and that online, and we don't know who is.
So the European market needs the same rules to the same products. That's it.
Yes, we
If
need
they
the
come
same
by
rules,
China or by Portugal.
and there are other principles very important. We need the same protection online that we have offline. Before we thought that we are better protected online, but nowadays we know that we are less protected or even unprotected when we buy something online.
Yes, the Commission prepared a report of which it was you are the shadow reporter by the Socialists and Democrats. How can this report can help us to go on the right way in this subject of product safety?
With these reports, we give some guidelines to the Commission to the revision of Product Safety Directive that was approved 20 years ago. 20 years ago, everything was very, very, very different. And one of our important points in the report was about precautionary principle. You know, precautionary principle from environment problems, but now we need this principle to be applied to these products based on AI, based on data, based on technology, because things are going very, very, very faster, and sometimes we need to be cautious, to be, we are not against the innovation, but we want a safe innovation. We want innovation for products and service that consumers can trust in the markets and can be protected when they go to the market.
And do you think the market will react well to this report?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but it depends when we trying to be a little more demanding with their behavior. The markets are the markets, but regulation, we know in the 90s we didn't know, but now we know that the markets depends on regulation. And I think at the beginning of the internet we think that it can work without regulation, and now we need to balance. Of course, we are not going to monitoring social networks, it's forbidden this word, but we would like to balance protecting consumers, protecting SMEs, protecting micro companies in order to have a balanced market online.
And the Commission's priority is for consumers, of course, and is also to be protected in consumer credit. Why?
Why? Because also consumer credit is a directive that is also a little bit old-fashioned, that need to be updated. As the software, yes. Also consumer legislation need to be updated. We need a software updated of all the legislation, not only, as I told before, not only in the content to regulate new problems, and in financial sector there are a lot of new products cash is disappearing, almost disappearing. There are new players that are selling online new financial products, and also a problem of over-indebtedness, especially in this COVID period. The numbers are left us a little bit worried on the problem. So we also need to update this legislation about financial products and about consumer credit in order to update it, in order to better protect the consumers in this situation.
And in the end, we need to reinforce.
Also a problem I would like to it's a very important problem, that is the scoring, the way we select a consumer to have or not to have a credit, using data, a lot of data, some data relevant to the problem, some data that are not relevant to the problem. My friends, my community, my origins, my race. If I was a woman, if I am a pregnant woman, maybe I'm going to have less wage.
Or less risk eventually.
Yes. So this is a problem. We need to control data. It's very important for us, for health, for control pandemic. We need more data and quality of data. And if you had better data in the beginning of this pandemic situation, probably would have been better controlled. It's very important to have good data, and we are working with Commissioner Leitão on European data spaces in different areas, from agriculture to health, of course, energy, mobility, and so on, in order to organizing our data, not only and not special personal data, but also the data of things, Internet of Things, that are very, very important information. So data are very important, and you can use data to prevent, for instance, online gambling addiction, to prevent diabetes, to preventing instead of solving, to guessing instead of asking. And this is a very important point in order to improve public policies also in this area. But we cannot use data in a way, special personal data, in a way to discriminate citizens and consumers in access of credit.
In your opinion, the data could help us to have a more equal society?
It depends. I hope so. But to do so, also you need to regulate the use of data. We did that with the GDPR on personal data, and also we need to do that in order to improve competition, because this is a problem, is that big platforms are using my data, the data of their providers of services, to develop this own business and to eliminate them from the market. This is not a good news, but there are also good news about data and artificial intelligence. So we need to work and to regulate in order data and artificial intelligence, that is the use of data, will be oriented for good and not for bad, preventing some risks, the most important ones, but innovation is a risk, we know, and innovation is good, and all consumers want innovative products, we know.
Let's talk a little more about the economy and about the balances. How to protect the consumers and simulate, promote the competition between the companies, between the economies of Europe. How do this balance?
I was professor of competition law when I was in the School of Economics here in the University of Coimbra, and I always when I give conference nowadays, even I used to say to my students that competition is not only to protect the regular work of the markets, regular function of the markets. Without competition law, there is no market, no free markets. It's a contradiction, because we need law and regulation even to protect the free markets, of course. But it's not only for that reason that we need to protect competition. It's also to protect consumers and the right of choice to consumers. I would like to choose among different providers of service, among different shops, either online or offline. So competition rules are important not only to protect markets, but also to protect consumers. And at the end of the day, to protect innovation. Because with only a player in the market, they can break innovation because it's comfortable in its position.
The world is more and more global. Do you see big differences between the countries, and especially in Portugal, if you see some differences between Portugal and another European markets in this subject?
I think we are similar in the same position. It's not very different.
We are all global and digital.
Yes, no, are global and digital. I work, and yesterday I participated in a webinar, in a conference with Colombia and Chile, because I'm coordinator in the Parliament of Eurolat for my group, and they invited me to discuss with them artificial intelligence strategy, comparing what they are doing, or are preparing, or are thinking in Chile and Colombia, and what we are preparing in European Union. And so we have the same concerns, we assess the same risks, and we think with optimism about the same opportunities. And the most important at the end of the day, it's that to have European perspective on digital and artificial intelligence and data that is different from the States and from China, one based on market and another one based on state. We need to look for allies all over the world. So we need to co-design with our partners in South America and Latin America, in Africa, in Australia, and in New Zealand, in India, in Northern, with Japan, as we did before with GDPR, with the regulation to protect personal data, in order to have a common approach, not necessarily the same rules, but a common approach, common principles, and a common framework to compete in the global world.
Do you think will be necessary a kind of education political to the companies and to the consumers to go ahead with this mission?
Yes, education is a crucial point, not only because of digital, because we need to empower consumers. We can protect them, but we need to empower them also on cybersecurity. It's very important, cybersecurity education, to protect myself in order to know that I cannot share some personal data. Sharing some personal data, sharing myself, my privacy. So it's very important education. It's very important I understand how it works, the platforms. I defend myself to protect my rights for the rights to be effective, as we discussed at the beginning. It's not only important to empower consumers association, this is very important in digital matters, but also to empower consumers by themselves through education and digital education. The European Union has an action plan for digital education, and this is very, 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 very important.
And in your opinion, what European institutions can do more for that?
They can invest more, because we need digital education, digital skills. It's not only education. Digital skills of different layers. The first one is digital inclusion. There are a lot of people, and we saw that during the crisis. We are seeing that during this crisis, how important is basic skills on digital in order to buy something online or to call my friends and so on. So this is very important. Connectivity, but also digital skills for everybody. It's a question of citizenship is the basic. And the basic could be not only to have a mail address, Nowadays, the basic is to know something about artificial intelligence, about data. This is the basic. The basic needs to be updated every day. And after education at schools, of course, and after reskilling and upskilling of our workers in order they are not left behind in this transition process. This is a very high risk for this point, upskilling, upskilling in social sector, in private sector, of course, and public sector too. And finally, the high-level research, not only in the Silicon Valleys of the world, but in all the countries. If not, we are going to be digital dependent, totally digital dependent. And so we need also to invest in high-level knowledge, skills on digital, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and so on. And of course, also in research project to participate actively in this transition process. And so education is also very, very most important for sustainability. That is the other one big challenge of consumers' agenda, because we are going to change our behavior on consuming with circular economy and everything we know. This is a long discussion on this challenge on sustainability, but it depends on education.
We need sustainability.
It's a culture. It's a culture revolution.
We need sustainability in our companies, in our lives, and we need transparency. And my last question is about advertising. How to increase the transparency of online advertising?
Yes, only a small remark on sustainability that is also important, related to product safety. That is obsolescence of the products. Nowadays, they are programmed to be updated very fast. And so you need to fight against this problem in order to the life cycle of the products will be not so short, to be longer. So, of course, this is a very important problem, advertising. It's one of the problems that are going to be regulated by the Digital Service Act in order to reduce the use of my data, my relations, my friends, my preference in social networks to target myself with some advertisement. And this is a very difficult situation, special for less educated and more vulnerable consumers.
And how to increase the transparency? What can the European institutions do to that, to have success?
Yes, it's not only
regulate
to regulate
more and more.
No, it's not only to regulate. It's important to regulate. But when we speak, we discuss a lot about the algorithms transparency.
Yes.
It's not only to regulate. It's why we need education. It's why we are discussing that now education is not only about digital as we know it before, as we knew it before. Now it's about the future. So to be prepared to the future, I need to know what is artificial intelligence, what is it about, how my data are relevant, how can be used, where are the data, the concepts of data donation and data dividend. If I give my data, I want to know what are the results of the use of my data. And so this is a challenge. We have no solution for everything. It's why we are discussing sometimes on precautionary. That means break some products and service from the moment waiting for to know more before putting them in the market. It's one of the problems, but we speak also about it's a jargon, regulatory sandbox. That is an experimental period. We try some kind of regulation, but we are not sure that it works. So we are going to experiment if it works, and if not, we are going to try another kind of regulation. If yes, we can expand it for all more products and services.
Maria Manuela Leitão Marques, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to the whole audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalia. See you soon.